And I'll basically leave that there and talk about his way that he looked at the soul, body, and spirit, what we might call the mind-body-spirit connection, okay? He looked at the body as having 3 levels or densities or aspects, however you want to look at it. The dense body, the realm of the physical, the vital body, the etheric or energy body, and the desire body, which was our emotions or the things that we care about, the driving force behind our care, which is the generative principle, as I've talked about many times. And this is basically the thing that we need to align our drive with, okay? The emotional or the desire body or the emotional part of us, what we feel in the body is a compass. It is a directional marker, and that's why we need to align ourselves to it. We need to be allowed to feel the full expression of our emotions because our emotions are a compass, a directional guide for the way we should be living and operating in the world, okay? Without that guide, we're sailing without a compass in the seas of the cosmos, and we're going to be lost. And it's interesting to note, the word lost means defeated, in addition to not knowing one's way. Because when we don't have the developed desire body aspect of ourselves, the emotional qualities, we are going to be lost. We're not going to have a compass, and that's ultimately going to lead to our defeat. And it's very interesting how language works like that. And it means 2 things that are so similar to each other. Both lost meaning both having, gone astray or awry, and you don't know your way anymore. You've lost the way, okay? And it also means defeated, because to have lost one's way is to be defeated. Wow. To have lost the way of the truth. The soul aspects, he also groups in the same way, and these have similar correspondences. The conscious soul, the intellectual soul, and the emotional soul, okay? The conscious soul is, our own individual monad of consciousness, I guess you could say, okay? The what you would look at as the droplet in the undifferentiated ocean, but it's still a unique droplet. Then when it is in the ocean, it seems like it's a complete, integrated part of that all. And indeed it is. But we could also look at it as the monad or the individual drop that comes together to comprise the all, okay? That would be like our conscious soul. The intellectual soul is the part of the mind that we think with, that we look at as the I, or we could look at that as even the observer, okay? And the intellectual soul is the qualities that we use to basically dissect reality and look at the relationships between things, okay? So this guides our intellect. And then the emotional soul, again, this is the higher aspect of the emotions. This is the higher aspect that is an evolutionary force that is working toward guiding us in the right direction, toward helping us to understand that we are all unified at some basic level, that we are all in the same basic situation together in this experience. We're all bound together. And to understand that is to stop looking at things as separate and stop looking at, I have to prosper, I have to benefit, I have to gain, even if others suffer, and to make the recognition that compassion is the answer and the recognition of oneness of all beings is the answer, okay? That's the guiding force of the emotional soul, as Heindel put it. The other aspects that he looks at in this, what he calls the tenfold constitution of man, is the human spirit, the life spirit, and the divine spirit. This is the animating force that basically makes our way of life, our kind of life, possible. So the animating force behind the human being itself would be considered the human spirit. We could look at that as, the breath of life that allows us to have the experience that we do in this physical domain. Okay? Then when it leaves the body, you know, reincarnation is also a big part of Rosicrucian teachings, and both Heindel and Steiner get deeply into afterlife experiences, or what they would call between life experiences, okay, where we're not in a physical incarnation. And the human spirit, to go back to that, is basically the animating breath of life, I guess you could say, that makes an individuated human experience possible. Above that, you have the life spirit, which guides all living beings, regardless of whether they're human or not. Okay, all individuated monad units of consciousness, if you want to look at it that way. Okay, and then there's the divine spirit, which is the unification of all of these experiences, and that basically learns, grows, absorbs, learns, and grows from all of the collected experiences under the life spirit that come to it through the life spirit, I should say. The divine spirit would be like that highest realm, okay, which is the all, which is life itself, which is the universe itself, okay? And Heindel basically said that all of us have a threefold constitution, and again, that's true. This is the mind-body-spirit connection, or what we could liken to the three aspects of consciousness being the thoughts, emotions, and actions, okay? In the middle, he placed mind as a hub around those other 9 aspects of our constitution, because, again, he looked at mind as the fulcrum point that the heart has to be united with. That's the whole goal. That's what the Rose Cross also represents, the unification of the heart and the mind. Okay? So the physical world and mind could be looked at as the cross, and the rose is the heart. And again, I've talked about this concept of the heart-mind, okay? Unifying our heart, or what we care about, with the higher aspects of knowledge, having acquired higher knowledge of self. They need to be brought into harmony. The balanced brain needs to be brought into harmony with the heart chakra, such that our actions, which will be guided by the brain, okay, will be in unison and accord with the generator of our experience, which is the heart, or care. In other words, the sacred feminine, or the heart, is what's really directing the show. It's in communication with the brain, guiding it in conscience, and then we're doing what the brain commands the physical body to do as the executive command center of the physical things that we do in life, or our behaviors. And that's what this tradition is ultimately teaching people how to gain control of, how to ultimately come into conscious unison flow with, okay? Unity consciousness between those two aspects of self. So he called the focus for that understanding the mind, with a capital M. And again, this is why the controllers of this world go to work on the mind. You know, they focus on that more than anything else, because if you're under mind control, ultimately you don't own yourself. You're not guiding your own actions and behavior. You know, you're not even seeking what I would call the operation manual for the self. You know, you're content to let somebody else push your buttons, and you're dancing like a puppet for them and their agenda, which isn't always pleasant. And I would say for people who try to control other people's minds, the agenda is quite wicked. It has nothing to do with the achievement of the light, or of higher states of consciousness, or of personal evolution, or evolution as a species. It has to do with chaos, death, and destruction, and the extermination of forward progress, and basically keeping species back from what is their birthright, which is evolutionary progress forward in consciousness. So the only other thing I'll say about Heindel's work is his concept of cycles, okay? And he looked at the entire concept of time as a pilgrimage for the soul, as a pilgrimage for the spirit. He has this basic breakdown of different worlds, okay? And these could all be looked at as periods of evolutionary growth, okay? So you have these periods, okay, world periods, he called them, okay, and we would basically begin at a high level that is very connected with pure spirit and start to descend through through 4 of these realms, okay, so it's a progress through 4 of these 7 world levels that is conducted in what would be considered cyclical movements through 5 of them at a time. Then you descend, okay, 4 of them at a time, excuse me. Then you descend and you go 1 level down. So you're now descended into the 5th out of these 7 world levels. And your experience is becoming denser. So you're progressing a little bit more away from the experience of pure spirit. And Heindel postulates that this has happened over cosmic aeons of time, okay? And again, he called this the pilgrimage of the spirits. And as we move forward through these time periods, which are 7 cyclical journeys through these 4 regions or 4 worlds that then progress down to a lower level, then a lower level, then a lower level, okay? We reach the bottom of that journey, which is where we are now. And, you know, in Eastern traditions, they had these cycles called the yugas, which this is very similar to. In the yugas, they have 4. Heindel postulates 7 cycles, okay? In Theosophy, they also talk about cycles and have different breakdowns of them. As to which one is an accurate interpretation, I don't really think is what we should get hung up on. I think we should understand that what he's saying is that he's putting forward the law of the principle of rhythm, that evolution does move in cyclical progressions, but it still always moves forward. It's not just a circle that's flat. It's like a spiral. The progress is being made as the revolutions of the spiral are being turned, okay? And then we move forward to a whole new cycle of evolutionary progress once we get past the lessons learned in those particular realms. So, you know, he has these world regions, the chemical region, the etheric region, the desire world, the realm of concrete thought, abstract thought, life spirit, and divine spirit. Those are the 7 realms. Wow. So we start at the realm of divine spirit. This is called the Saturn period, and go through 7 cyclical progressions of movement from the world of divine spirit down to life spirit, down to abstract thought, down to concrete thought. And then we repeat that cycle 7 times. And then we move to a new cycle that's lower down and goes into a more dense experience. And this he called the sun period in the 2nd period. And at the bottom level of that 4-world progression is the desire world. Now we've descended down into the desire region, or the desire world. We do 7 more cycles there, or, you know, spirals, however you want to look at it. And then we go into a lower progression in which we have descended from pure spirit and gone into denser realms once again. Now we have the etheric or vital body, okay, where that would be the lowest that it went during that cycle, which was called the moon cycle. 7 progressions through those 4 realms, from the region of abstract thought to the etheric region. Then we make another descent. And this is the bottom of the curve, because, again, Rosicrucianism, again, talks about the septenary, or 7. The number 7 is sacred to this tradition. Okay? So Earth, period, is the lowest part of the cycles. In the entire progression between these worlds of spiritual consciousness, you don't get any lower than the Earth cycle. Again, this was could be likened to the Kali Yuga of the Vedic tradition. Okay? So at the very bottom of this cycle is the chemical region, epitomized by the physical planet of the Earth itself. You know, which, if we had a dark worldview, can be construed as being the hell of this cycle, which it does very much seem like. But Heindel's progression of the spirits through these cycles basically assures us that we will eventually make our 7 progressions through this cycle, the Earth cycle, and or period, and then begin the ascent back up through these worlds, and 3 more lay beyond it, named the Jupiter, Venus, and Vulcan cycles.